record, Andy. So
okay.
Oh,
there we are.
Sweet. Let me.
And that's why I have Ebola.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Sorry to hear that. I hope you can get through that. That sounds horrible.
Yeah. TC's just confirmed the results.
Yeah. It doesn't look good. It
Tomorrow,
doesn't look good.
tomorrow I'm going to start bleeding out of my eyes. And
I wish I could tell you the results, but I'm a laboratory technician. I'm not authorized to do that. You'll have to wait a few days from your doctor.
Yeah.
I heard that we were going to make an exception, though, for Andy, just so that you could, because tonight you're diagnosing a special award, right?
Yes, I am. I'm very excited. We're going to have our first annual Andrew Dennison Award.
Full disclosure, my lights just flickered, so if I'm killed by a Demigorgon on screen, just
You're in the upside down right now, TC?
I am in the upside down. And that's because I saw a link that Andy sent me about some fan-made expansion to the Arkham Horror card game that uses Stranger Things characters.
That's true.
Yeah.
The timing of that one, it's impeccable, Andy. Nice.
Yeah. No, it was really cool. And then what was the other one? Yeah, and then I saw an announce it's coming back in July. So I'm like, yay, season 3.
Yeah, for sure. Did you know any of the details behind that? Did you guys? I followed the link that you shared, Andy, but it was just
somebody made a fan expansion and somebody printed it. So it's a print and play thing.
Yeah. At first, I thought that they got the rights to do an official, but it's a fan made thing. But it's still cool.
Yeah, it's by the way, the picture for our listeners is a picture of the Stranger Things sheriff in what looks to be a sealed deck of cards, together with iconography from the Arkham Horror living card game.
Yeah,
which TC is infected by.
Yeah, they apparently did the same thing for 1960, the making of a president. They had a Hillary Clinton Trump deck you could print and play.
And that was, by the way, a legacy game where you actually destroyed components. Take that wherever you want to. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just put it this way. I would have less problem playing certain factions in this guilty land than I would in that scenario.
That being said, 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, a podcast about board games. I'm the host of The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, Joe Stalin. I'm joined tonight by Andy Dennison, who's funky and fresh tonight. Right, Andy?
I don't know about fresh.
No fresh, just funky. Okay, just the gamer funky from Andy. And special guest. That's right, TC. You get introduced last as a special guest. Yeah, you're the topic tonight. A special guest, TC Reed. He's going to be giving us his top 10 games of the last calendar year, 2018. How's it going tonight, TC?
Going great. I'm kind of scared about the chat tonight since I'm the special guest. Let's throw myself up here. What was it, Trent's last week, or since I wasn't here?
Yeah,
Trent was the last time we had a go of it with Trent's top 10. He definitely was very special. So TC, you, sir, are going to be bringing us the top 10 games from the Upside Down.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that I was just going to be. I thought me and Andy were going to together, and Andy said, "No, it's you." I'm like, "Oh, good." I'm just going to be me. It's going to be great.
No, 2 top 10s in one night. I want to finish before midnight.
Okay.
Well, if it's you, Andy, and me too for the moment, but if it was you, would you really be able to come up with 10 games from 2018? I mean, holy crap.
No. My rules were, I went to my standard rules of if I played it in 2018.
Fair enough. All right.
Because so many of what I play are old ones from other weird years and stuff. So, yeah. I think the only thing I didn't count was if I played it in prototype form in 2017, but played it in 2018.
Yeah, I tried following your rules, but then I came up with a whole set of my own. And honestly, the Andrew Dennison Award was just an excuse to give me 11 games instead of 10. And then I have a whole bunch of nominees for other various awards because I wasn't sure if some of these games could actually be considered games of 2018 for various reasons. So we'll go through the list, and you can
just
judge
follow
me.
Joe's rules, and you have a top 10 with 30 honorable mentions.
15, Andy. That's not perfect. 15 honorable mentions on a top 10 list. Well, it was that year, man. This year, I would struggle to like put 10 games on a list, not because there haven't been great games, but just because I have just not had a chance to play so many of the ones that I really think would make the list. Not to say that there isn't going to be some on there, just so many games that I feel like would be misrepresented by not putting on a list. You know, not to say that I have, no, but no.
You know. Well, I looked through some of our past episodes, and I noticed that we did a predictions for 2018. I'm going to dig that up, and we're going to go through that for an episode to see how point on we were for 2018 as a whole. So that'd be a lot of fun.
Anything I said I know didn't come true.
Oh, yeah, you got a disclaimer for that episode?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I'm just gonna say, like,
I have a unique talent. If I like assume something's gonna happen, the universe will make sure it doesn't happen. Like, this is why Iowa has had such little snowfall this year, because I bought a new snowblower. So you're welcome, Iowa.
I was wondering who to thank for that, because I knew this time it wasn't me. I always figure that's me, but Andy, you have taken the role of the guy who buys the umbrella just to make it not rain anymore.
Yep, that's pretty. I bought a nice new electric snowblower that's just set in the garage, and that's it.
Yeah, we got what seemed to be an early onset of winter in like November, and then it just dried up, and we are looking at a January that is more of a March or April. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I did see a prediction, like, what was that? 2014, I read a climate change study and said that Iowa will be like Kansas. By 2020, Iowa will be like Kansas was in 2014, which seems to be about right.
Yeah, we're heating up here. That's right. You should make the next
always
big
bet on scientists.
It'll be the subtropics before too long.
Yeah, we're just going to drown. It just keeps raining more and more here. I'll just be underwater. I'll be broadcasting from a submarine or something.
We'll be making a pandemic rising tide.
Yeah. Well, Disney World will be a scuba attraction eventually. So.
Yeah. Disney World and Aqua World decided that.
Yes, same thing.
Yeah. Oh boy. Well, Andy, why don't we hear a first impression here from you to start off our reviews? Oh. First, thanks to Game Surplus. They sponsor this show. They deserve the time. They deserve to be mentioned here. You should check out Game Surplus, where you can get the Pandemic Deluxe new edition that just popped up on store shelves not too long ago, the one that makes it look like you got a first aid kit.
Wow. Yeah, the 10th anniversary edition.
Oh, yeah, that does look neat.
Yeah,
with its glass petri dishes.
Yeah, I walked into the store, I grabbed it off the shelf, I threw it on the ground, I tried to step on it, expecting myself to gain 10 hit points, but instead I just made both my co-hosts shake their heads. Come on, guys, it's an audio show. Nobody can see that.
I don't know what game you're talking about.
I don't think they get it. I let me continue to explain the joke. It's never quite over until the joke is thoroughly explained. And then maybe. No, I will spare you that, actually. Now, we'll move on from that plug of Game Surplus that took a turn for the awkward, and just sail our way right into Andy's first impressions of a game that I can't wait to also share my thoughts on. Andy, take it from here.
Yeah, I'm going to give my first impressions because over the holidays, I have not had a lot of chance for game playing, so in depth, not so much. But anyway, I did manage to snag a copy because my mother-in-law gave me some like Christmas money and basically wrote games ? On it. So I managed to, with that, purchase a game, the game War Chest, because that had been recommended to me by several online people I play 18xx with and such like that. So
recommending a game for 18xx players from 18xx players to Andy, like that's, I just wanted to say that's a significant event right there. So
yeah. So anyway, War Chest is an abstract game, which is not normally kind of my forte, but it's kind of like a combination of a light war game and an abstract game, which that made it sound more interesting. And so the way this works is you have a board, you put it out, you have to take over so many locations, you can kill enemy coins, things like that. All your units come as, basically, they call them coins, but basically they're like really nice poker chips. They got a good heft to them and everything, and they're nice. I don't know the term for it, but they got the appearance of the unit on them, but it's not a sticker, like it's part of the chip. Really nicely done. They got a great heft to them. And basically what you do with these poker chips is you put them in a bag, you shake it up and you draw poker chips. So it's basically kind of like a bag builder, kind of like Orleans, except better. And yeah, I won't go on a rant about that game right now. But anyway, so they're these nice hefty poker chips, and I was really impressed by that component quality. Because I think on Amazon I spent like $40 for this, and that seems like a lot. Not a lot. You got a lot for that amount of money in terms of component quality. Even the box itself is shaped like a chess, and you open it up, and there's this cute little rhyme you read about it, where the great general gave the king's newborn son the war chest, which will teach him how to be a great general. Basically, that kind of thing. And so you draw these coins, and you're allowed to take certain actions with them. And some actions require you to place a coin face up. So now your opponent has foreknowledge of what coins you've played. Some actions require you to play a coin face down. So you have used a coin, but your opponent's not exactly too sure what that is. The nice thing is you'll start with a certain number of unit types, and each unit type has a set number of coins to it, usually 4 or 5. So you can kind of look at the situation of, if Joe had 5 warriors and he's spent all 5 of those coins, and I know he's done that, and I still have some left, I can then move in to take out his warriors because I know there's not a dang thing he can do about it. However, if some of the coins are face down, that gets the whole interesting part of your brain going. What are the odds that one I can't see is a warrior coin? And that kind of thing. But it's really neat. So it's kind of got this bag building element. The bag building is used to play this abstract game on the board of moving units around, killing enemy units, that kind of thing. The other kind of really awesome decision point of this is the following. Let's say we're talking about those warriors again, and you have 5 coins. Here's the thing. If you want to use those warriors to attack or defend something, you have to put a coin on the board. Now you're down to 4 coins that you can actually do anything with. You can reinforce those warriors. You can put another coin on top of the one you already put out there. And that makes them stronger, so they got to take 2 hits to get taken off the board instead of 1. However, now you're down to 3 coins to activate these warriors. And so it's this kind of push and pull of how much do you want them on the board versus how much do you want to be able to activate them and such. So there's a lot of really interesting aspects to that and how that works. But yeah, it's really neat. The component quality is outstanding, but if you like the idea of kind of like a light war game, maybe mixed with the abstract nature of chess, this is a really good game for that. But for $45, you are more than getting your money's worth, both in component quality and in gameplay in this one. So that is War Chest. I would recommend this. We didn't even get into, there's all kinds of units. There's probably twice as many units as we actually played with that all have potential combo abilities and crazy stuff like that. So check it out if that sounds interesting. There you go.
Well, I'd like to chime in here. Like I was saying, Andy, this game thrilled me in how beautifully produced, simple elegance. I mean, the artwork reminds me of the classic design sculpts of a chessboard, and very similar. Like, the differences in your units do feel like a comparison to the knights of chess, and other pieces can be made. The big thing that I noticed as a 2-player game, aside from what you mentioned, Andy, which is the beautiful system of pool building, which you're like the quantity in your reserve. Every time that you put a unit on the board, you're losing that from your pool of activation potential. The beauty of some tokens will be played face down, some will be played face up, so that you can't really know exactly what your opponent has access to. It gives a little bit of space for uncertainty bluffing, if you will. The thing that I like enjoyed the absolute most was that it felt almost like back and forth. There was just a plotting wrecking ball feeling of this game it was such a tension that I felt like there was just barreling back and forth. This, just a very powerful and, game clock-esque element. And that's every time that a player takes the action to take initiative from the opponent, you're going to be going second, and it will enable you to have a double turn. And I will tell you straight up that this double turn is where the damage in the game can be done. You need to plan accordingly. You need to plan viciously. You are going to be designing your army from the beginning in terms of the composition of what you use to attack. The system itself is just really beautifully executed, extremely sound, and very elegant. One, Andy, that just impressed me to no end that, like, this game appealed to you because, like, I thought it was really, really cool. I mean, poker chips and a bunch of them, and that's basically the game. I mean, that's the major piece here. You had added, the kind of strange component snafu you fixed by print and playing some cardboard hexes, but the only issue I'd see with the production is that there are pieces that are circular shaped, exactly flush with the poker chip pieces, and they are cardboard sort of control seats that would be very helpful for you to be able to see them on the board, but you can't really see them if a piece is covering it. So aside from that one little thing, which you had already fixed, Andy, there's nothing about this game that I don't think, from a first glimpse and just a first blush, for me, I'm just very positive about it. I think it's really cool, and enjoyed the play with you, Andy.
Just when I think AEG is done and they're not going to do anything of interest anymore, and their big thing is like Thunderstone Quest 3rd edition or whatever it's called, out comes something like
too?
Huh?
Were they Love Letter?
I think they since sold it, like they did Legend of the Five Rings.
Oh, right.
But yeah, just when I count these guys out, something comes up, and I go, oh yeah, there's another 2-player dueling game we'll have to get at some point in the abstract game, because one of my favorite, I really like the Duke. Duke is one of my favorite 2-player games, and all the comparisons I hear is that, if you like the Duke, you need to run out and get this thing. So I'm really glad to hear some positive impressions about it. I'm probably going to have to seek it out at some point.
Well, and the thing that I was thinking the whole time too is, and at risk of angering the chess crowd out there, so hopefully my wife's not listening too closely. But people will always say, like, chess teaches you how to fight a battle or something like that. I get that feeling way more from war chess. Like, it's definitely pulls that abstract a little bit more to the combative nature of a war game than regular chess does. But yeah, it top-notch game. This is not one that's going to be leaving my collection anywhere in the near future. Probably the long-term future.
I agree, Andy. I guess I hope so, because I want to keep playing it with you. Having played the Duke, I enjoy the Duke. There are certainly elements of being intentional to the game. The core decision of do you pull a new piece? Do you play with what you got? I think that's very cool. I do think that this is a better looking game. Just the way that the bag in the Duke really needs to step it up to be at all close to this, like, embroidered satin stack. It's just, and there's actually 4 of them included in War Chest because you can play 4-player. Don't know if I recommend that.
4-player, 2 teams. Yeah, that was the other thing. Like the component quality is something that, like when I first started looking at everything, I didn't even realize was AEG when I bought it. Like I just assumed it was like a Kickstarter game that got huge upgrades because it did so well. Like that's the kind of quality that's there.
Yeah. It's uncommon to see pieces that nice. So very cool, Andy, and hope to see more War Chest on our gaming table here. TC, definitely check this one out. I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, you guys are vouching for it. I'm definitely going to check this out.
We'll see if Murr ends up buying it too.
Oh, speaking of which, here in our chat, we've got Paul and we have Norm. Welcome, guys. And since you may not know about it, and if you don't know about it, you can thank me later. We have a wonderful system of camaraderie here in the Good, the Board, and the Ugly, in our cardboard cohort system. And I'd like to invite you guys all to try out the Bridge City Board Gamers audio products. Those could be Cardboard in the Classroom for those of you that are interested in the educational side of board game uses, which I know that Norm was recently looking at how he could use Wendaki, which I recently reviewed on this podcast, the game about the Great Lakes Native tribes. And I look forward to hearing more about that on the Cardboard in the Classroom podcast, as well as more reviews and perspectives based on incomplete information, which is cardboard conjecture. So check them out at the Bridge City Board Gamers. They're on iTunes and also all kinds of other places, because Norm is better about audio than I am. He just is good about posting things and knowing how things work. I'm still struggling. Here we are, episode 194. Hope it posts. Fingers crossed.
Click the button, pray for the best.
Yeah. Hold on to your butts. Well, speaking of which, I'm going to be reviewing a game, so you might want to hold on to your butts. This is only a first glance, only a first blush. Oh, man. Only the tip of the iceberg with this one, too. It's because I'm delving into a very deep subject, and that is the mind. This is a review of Cerebria, based on like what I would call about a 30% play. I feel like I've only played 30% of this game. I mean, there's like 8 different player powers. I've only seen 3 of them. And then there is an advanced game. Then you can take it to the next level and construct a deck before you play this game. It's not one of those types of games, but you can add that to it if you so choose. And on top of that, there's a whole expansion that adds a potential for 2 more personalities to be in the game. So like I said, just about 30% of the game that I've even tried to interact with. So Cerebria, what is it? It's a team game, and that's what makes it feel different than most games releasing in the year 2019. I feel like most heavier, what you might call resource management or Euro-style board games will tend to pull punches in terms of player interaction, especially ones that involve multiplayer experiences, because who you're going to attack can really kind of upset the otherwise proper and organized and orderly economy of an economic of just an economic. I don't want to say an economic game, because I know that can mean like more of the vicious side of resource management games, more of the monetary side. So I'm not going to say economic, but just, your Euro style games. If you're familiar with that,
we coined the new term Euro Snowflake. Yeah.
Euro Snowflake.
Yeah, this is not a Euro Snowflake game. And here's why. It's a team game, meaning that the direct interaction in the game, you can quell other spirits' influence, and that directly removes their presence from the board. However, since you are playing teams in this game, at least before you add in the expansion, the game goes 2 to 4 players, and it will be 2 teams. You can easily play with 3 or with only 2, because there is rules for a player to essentially take double turns. It does end up kind of working in a way. You have the difficulty of mobility, because you only have 1 piece, being balanced out by the concentration of all your resources in one hand, as opposed to 2 that cannot share certain elements. Essentially, though, what are you trying to do? You are a force in the mind of Cerebria. It's very murky whose mind you're in. But players in our group that noticed the game were like, oh, this is Inside Out, the board game. And that's kind of, the Pixar movie Inside Out is very similar to the structure of Cerebria. You're going to be taking on either bliss or gloom. The expansion adds in balance, but I know nothing about that. So let's stick to the base game. Bliss and gloom are going to have 4 different variable player powers that you can choose as that start with as simple as just a single ability that changes how they work, all the way to flipping over your player board and having an entirely variable setup. So I've not even seen what the variable setups are like. I've only scratched the surface with this thing. But I am super positive on what I've seen. And it is just such a breath of fresh air to see a game that's trying to do something so unique, but doing such in a way that really, this is a game that's about timing above anything else. I mean, the elements of Cerebria that you have to sort of try to line up, it feels like you're trying to get the planets to align. It is a simple, I want to say about 15 card, there are 15 card slots on the board, all divided into 3 triads. And in between each triad, there is what's called a realm. These realms represent the different areas in the mind. You can actually take actions in these realms. You're also going to be fighting for area control in these realms by putting out your emotions. The emotions that you put out will first need to be invoked to actually go onto the board. They'll then need to be bolstered by taking one of the realm actions. And this whole time, you're trying to jockey around a figure that you are on the board that's manipulating in a sort of rondelle mechanism where you're going to be moving from 10 different little nodes on the board, each of which allow you to influence different areas, meaning placing down your emotions, which come out of a deck that is pre-constructed at the start of the game. There are many different variable starting decks, one for each player power that you can choose. By the way, these player powers, names like anxiety, you played Love, Andy, the other game?
Love? Okay.
Yeah, I played Misery in our game. I was Misery just so that I could sing that crappy
2 Gloom
90s
players
soul.
were RPGing it up, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I got my Soul Asylum going with playing Misery. I was Misery Incorporated. But it was a grand time though. We played a 3-player game, so we did get to see how the 1 player versus 2 works. The 1 player won in a photo finish where it was 15-15. Andy won as the sole force, force of bliss in this game, and he won by being the guy that ended the game. And you were the only one that was really set up to do that, Andy. You really did feel like it felt like you played the better game at the end. I feel
Well,
like
yeah, but that's also because I didn't have to cooperate with the partner. I mean, no, quite frankly, like that's the advantage in the 3-player game is kind of what Joe alluded to. Like I felt stymied in the ability to get around the board. So if goals came up like you need to control more of this than the other side, I'm like, well, yeah, that ain't gonna happen. So my only hope then was that my personal goal was something I could actually achieve. So like Joe and the person he was playing with, they had a lot of board mobility compared to me. But yeah, I had all my resources concentrated. And so I didn't have to cooperate with anyone to get the timing right, to get done what I wanted to get done and that kind of thing. So I think, yeah, like I was really questioning how well those mechanics were going to work as a 3-player game. And I think actually they worked very well. Like it was a close game. I was not expecting it to be.
No, I felt like you played quite a better game, but there was just a lot of good moves on our side of the table. Not really coming from me. I definitely was. I was fairly miserable. I think I was doing too good of a job of role playing it. Now, it didn't turn out that bad, but it was kind of fun. It was a cool thing to get to see it all come together. And I think that you're right in mentioning that, Andy. That the mobility is great, and not only that, but as you were saying that, I thought, what game this reminds me of? Scythe. Scythe is what it reminds me of, because you've got a player board where you can kind of upgrade your actions to make them kind of more effective. And it's very restrictive. Think about this, Andy. There's only 10 different spots on the board. And since it was 2v1, there was essentially 1/5 of the board was blocked out from you being able to move to it at all times. You can never move to where an opponent is. However, you can move to where your ally is. So that kind of hurts. However, you can upgrade your ability to move to include being able to barge into a spot with an opponent, provided that you spend a little bit of extra resources, which is a really cool way, in my opinion, for a player board to work. You upgrade things to make yourself capable of more, but you still have to pay to make those things actually happen. TC, I'm sorry, man. I'm going to drop a bomb on you here.
Drop it. I'm ready.
Okay. The artwork in this game, imagine if there was 90 – well, okay, so there's about maybe 200 different cards in this game per side. So not 200 different cards, 200 total cards. And I think there's about 32 per side. Almost all of them look like different, adorable, yet vicious little animals that remind me of Snake Kitty from Dungeon Pets.
Snake Kitty! Gee, I wonder who'd be interested in that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man, but I'm kind of tossing the bus here. If you look at the artwork from this game, I think that it is one of the most beautiful games ever to be produced from a aesthetic perspective. It is the adorable creatures from Dungeon Pets.
Awesome.
In a world of Salvador Dali-esque surrealism.
I was just going to say the artist probably does a lot of LSD. It kind of gave me that. Ooh, the color.
Did such a great job. Like
no, it was good, actually.
Yeah, I agree with you, though, Andy. I totally agree with you. And one of my favorite cards was the card for embarrassment. It's just like an elephant, and there's nothing more expressive than an elephant that is so embarrassed its trunk is like totally purple and like just like cut up, wrapped up underneath itself. Like it's just like like the artwork just made me want to go that didn't go the way you were hoping, did it? I got really into this from a perspective of being able to really get into the roles of you're playing misery, you're playing love, you're playing joy, and I don't even know if I think that's one of the names of the abilities in the game is joy. But it to me, you just barely scratch the surface. And I think that there's a lot here in the way that you can set this up to be different every game. Not only are there 8 different variable player powers with an upgraded side and their own unique deck that you can play from the rules with, in addition to, like the starting decks that they recommend for your first game. But there is also the ability to like mix and match cards to just create your own sort of starting deck. And what you'll do is you'll shuffle a deck of 16 emotions. And these emotions, you'll draw 2 to start the game, and you'll continue at the end of every turn to either take an ambition token, which is very, very powerful, a very useful resource that can be used by your allies as well as by yourself on a future turn, or you'll draw 2 off of your own deck. And you're not allowed to share these cards with your allies. That's one of the kind of like limitations of being on a team together. So you're only going to be drawing 2 of your 16 cards, and you really don't. I don't think, Andy, you were taking like double the turns that me and my partner were. I don't even think you got through your deck of 16 cards in this game.
Oh, no.
You're not going to see all your cards in this game. The game is not that long. It doesn't plod along. It kind of like zooms towards different intervals where you're really trying to set up the board so that you can then, drain as much energy as you can from the central core and then trigger like a scoring. And these scorings are all laid out from the very beginning of the game. It feels like a bunch of just like little head-to-head clashes that then add up. Every single time that you have this clash, you're either going to be adding a piece of your color or a piece of the opponent's color to this tower that you build physically in the middle of the game. Has anybody ever played Pillars of the Earth where you have the round counter that's like a cathedral?
Yeah. This
is like that, except imagine that you're fighting to put your pieces on it, your opponent's fighting to put their pieces on it, and that at the end of the game, you have this towering, sort of trophy that shows all of your achievements throughout the game, and then whoever has the most of those wins at the end of the game. Whoever, if you have a tie like we did, it's whoever ends the game. So it's just very positive. I guess I'm on the side of bliss when looking at my first play of Cerebria. It is unique. How many Euros can you think of where it's a points game, but it's a team game? That really have that much of a following. I mean, if you're worried about it being a team game, just play it 2-player. I mean, it's made for that. But I
agree, and have the 2 people that want to play as a team go on the other side.
Yeah, have them fail like I did. It was a cool experience, though. I liked playing it with 2 because it did feel like we had advantages, but we needed to communicate. And that might have been tough because we were learning the game, but it was still a real blast. You did a good job, though, Andy, pulling together the stops from your difficulty and moving around.
Yeah, I think I came home that night and I looked at my wife and I was like, well, hell has frozen over. She's like, why is that? I'm like, because I think I won every game I played tonight.
Andy, you just want to play more games when I'm there, right?
Yeah. No, honestly, yeah, I think it was a really good game. The one thing I think I found similar is it's by the same group that did Tricerian and Anachrony.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of a thing with their games is they can intimidate people because there's kind of just so much stuff. Like it's very high in complexity, but it's one of those like there's a lot of complexity in the terms of the tools you have available, but it's really not that hard in what you've actually got to do. That's fairly straightforward. So that's kind of like that with Tricerian. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that you can use. But the game itself is not actually as difficult to play, I think, as it looks. And even for us, I would say the first third of the game, once a few things clicked, like the game moved along pretty quickly. Like if we played with the same three a second or even third time, like the game would not take long at all. It would fly along pretty well.
I agree. Like probably you're looking at about half an hour a player once you know what you're doing. Maybe you could even get it done shorter. I mean, especially if it's really going one-sided, like the game has kind of a mechanism for whenever a player gets kind of a big swing where you add a major fragment as opposed to the normal minor fragment. Whenever you do that, the opposing team gets to shorten the game, but they shorten it in their own choosing, in the way of their own choosing. They get to eliminate one of the future scoring goals, and that usually gives you a window to be able to catch back up. It's not, I mean, it's tightening, it's a little bit of tightening the noose because, you're talking about the game clock going down, and if you're losing, that's rough. But at the same time, like, it gives you control over your future. I just think there's little choices like that at every corner in this game, and nothing ever becomes really unwieldy or, like out of hand in Cerebria, and which blows my mind because of just the sheer ambition of the mixing of so many different elements here. The main thing, like, because I compared a little bit to Scythe, and I realized, Andy, that that's not a super favorable comparison to you, but I just think that's because the core elements of the game here are very simple. I feel like the difference is, though, that we played a basic game that's most likely about on the par with Scythe, whereas the advanced versions of this game, when you start adding in, some of the ways that the game can change, I feel like it really will become much more different. Like you can actually take
we were kind of just pulling the levers that are the easiest to pull. Like we didn't like upgrade our cards or any of the crazy other stuff you can do.
Yes. That you can actually, like, if you play the full game, we played the basic game. Like we didn't even play the advanced base game. We played the basic base game. The advanced game actually has you like being able to, like Andy said, upgrade your cards once they're out on the board. Every starting card starts as a mild emotion, can become stronger. And everything about the abilities, together with the artwork, together with the production, beautiful, elegant, and something that is totally unique in terms of the way that it does a Euro area control game that gives players the amount of control over the system that I'm looking for. And I was worried about it being a team game. And after our play, Andy, I'm not as worried. I think that it works well, even at odd player counts. That was what I was kind of worried about more than anything. But
I was questioning how that was going to play out at 3. I thought it worked really well. Yeah.
So I'm hoping to, keep exploring. Like I said, we've just had our first go with Cerebria, and it's different. It's not going to come easy, and there's a lot of setup. By the way, sorry, Andy. Sorry. I was caught. TC, could you imagine this when you like going to teach somebody a game and you're like, oh my God, those cards are still in shrink. Oh, and we had to like sort everything. It was like, hey, Andy, do you mind giving me the first 15 minutes of your game night to just help me get this game organized? Oh.
Yeah, luckily for Joe, I'm like slightly obsessive compulsive, and so organizing things brings me joy.
That was Andy's way of being nice, but yeah, I
no, I like literally do. Remember when you didn't want to have to sort 18 OE, so you gave it to me, and I'm like, oh, goody! Like 4 hours of sorting and having a blast.
That's right. That's right. You were like, yay, and I was like, it's never gonna happen from me. But I'm glad that you were able to help me with that, Andy, because we did get the game up and running. We did get it played. But know that you need to do your homework before you ever bring this one to your game.
Yeah, you probably should
than I did
at the time.
Yeah, do better than me. Learn from my mistakes. And do as I say, not as I do. All right, so that would bring us to the capping of this segment of reviews. So of course,
I kind of forgot to submit my review because I was too busy making my list. I apologize.
TC, it's assumed that you will make, when you do your top 10 list, it's assumed that you need your voice for that. So, buddy, you take it from here. What was like your criteria in forming this? Obviously, it's going to be more stringent than Andy.
Well, first of all, I am going to be very curious because I have not listened to Trent's top 10. So I'm curious how much of ours is going to sync up. So you have to let me know how mine compares to his. But my list mainly consisted of strictly games that came out in 2018. I did not include any expansions, reprints, or new editions, although I do have a small list to include those because I wasn't sure if that was legit or not. And then I do have an 11th one. That's my Andrew Dennison Award. And then I have like some disappointments in my surprise. So I just kind of like went through everything and threw it all together. And I just wanted to briefly start by talking about 2018 in general, my feelings on it and how things panned out. It was an interesting year. It was the year that Mayfair went away.
Oh no.
Really?
Yeah, and like the co-founder just died.
Yeah. And I trying to figure out exactly what happened, but it looks like one of the CEOs sold Catan to Asmodee and formed Catan Studios. And then once they lost their evergreen title, I think the whole thing just collapsed.
And I think everyone expected that after selling Catan. When I saw that, I'm like, what are you doing?
So it was, it was kind of it didn't happen as severely as I was fearing, where Asmodee was just going to gobble up stuff, but it still continued. And there were a lot more mergers in board gaming. There were, like I just heard Stronghold merge with someone. And so things are consolidating. And, my big fear still going forward is that once, you consolidate and with different studios, those studios are going to have expectations to meet financially. And when they don't, they're going to disappear. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but I can still see where it's going. But overall, 2018 was a fairly strong year. There were a lot of games I didn't even play that I should have. 2018
was stronger than 2017 for sure, game wise.
Well, it's so hard to make those things because there's so much stuff. I mean, and I was just organizing all the stuff I played. I'm like, okay, even just throwing out the stuff that didn't, that I played that came out in 2017. There was still a lot. So I spent most of my weekend, organizing this thing. So overall, I think 2018 was good. It was definitely some, I definitely think it was, I did not expect it to be the year of the collectible card game. And once again, we found out that you go against Magic, you're going to lose, with the exception of one. But we'll talk about that because I have a feeling, you guys going to know how that made my list.
Yeah, I can call this one here in advance. In
the collectible card game.
So we're gonna be forging some keys later on in TC's list. So
before I start my lists, I would like to present a little challenge. How many GMT games do you think I'm going to be discussing in total tonight?
I'll say 3. I'm just going to say 3. Conservatively,
I'll go 4
3.
just to be different. I thought it'd be 3 or 4. We'll say 4.
Yeah. Every time I do a top of 2018, I always go GMT and see what came out that year.
There were some good GMT games that came out.
Yeah, there was 2018 too. And I have someone made the list, and one of them almost made my disappointments. So we'll start there. We'll start from my biggest disappointments from 2018. Usually these games, I usually pick a game that I played and I thought was garbage. And a lot of games came to the top. The biggest one for me personally being Century Eastern Wonders. the Century Spice Road was supposed to be the Splendor Killer, which wasn't. And I was curious how this was going to stack up. And then I got my copy. I knew people who got a copy of Space Core, and that thing was missing stuff, and that was disappointing. There was I could go on, but
so
I just
unusual. GMT's usually pretty good that doesn't happen.
Yeah, which was surprising. They just some cards are missing, and so I'm kind of glad I'm waiting on that one. The person who did order it's not too happy about it, but I decided to take a different route this year, and I was going to pick a game that I played quite a bit and rather enjoyed, but because of various other things happening, the game ended up being a disappointment. And by far, one of the games I threw quite a bit of money at, and the game just ended up going nowhere. I'm still curious how they're going to follow up on this with Season 2, because while you guys are talking, I checked on their forum to see if it's going to happen. It's like, we have an announcement in 2019, but they really haven't posted anything since October 25th. And that is Munchkin, the collectible card. It's designed by Kevin Wilson and Eric Lang. It's actually published by Steve Jackson Games. It's a good game. I enjoy playing it. My daughter likes it. We played it quite a bit. I bought boosters. We went to events, but this game, I don't know what they were thinking by making a collectible card game. I mean, this year Transformers collectible card game came out. There's like a new Warhammer card game that came out. It's been a bad time to release a collectible card game, and month by month by month, with each release, fewer and fewer people showed up where we were playing it, and it just ended up being me and Kate till eventually the last booster set that came out, Grave Dangers, I didn't even bother going to because I just didn't want to sit there and beg for the stuff that was supposed to be there. I've got a ton of promotional stuff here that I could give out for the podcast, but honestly, I don't think anybody wants it. Which is a shame. It really is a really fun card game. I just think, just going into the collectible card game market and going up against Magic 20 years on is still a humongous mistake. Even when you have an IP as strong as Transformers with Wizards of the Coast, who makes Magic, by the way, that thing's dying. The Warhammer game came out strong, and that thing, I've never saw anyone play that at all. So, it's a good game.
You're not going to rip Magic players away from their Magic cards, man. It's just not going to happen.
And we'll talk about this more later on my top 10 list, what I see happening. But, it's just disappointing that my daughter really took to a game, and I enjoyed playing it, and just the community wasn't there. For whatever reason, Steve Jackson Games wasn't out there promoting it or whatever. And I'll be curious. I'll do a post-mortem on this at some point because I'm curious if there's even a season 2. But on the upside, if this thing does go down the drains, hopefully I'll be able to buy a few boxes of boosters, like really, really super cheap, so at least me and Kate can keep playing it. All in all, I think that's probably my biggest disappointment. It's not the fault of the game itself. I think it's just the support around it and the fact that, let's make a collectible card game and just watching it wither. So,
it's like a tear rolls down the cheek moment, man.
These days.
So, we'll see. We'll follow this up next year and see. I think my predictions for 2019 is going to be Munchkin isn't going to make it. But that's not good. One to make. Then I went on to my biggest surprise of 2018. So I went through the list and looked at it, and I think honestly my biggest surprise, the game I thought was going to be complete garbage, that didn't turn out to be, because everyone who I talked to about said don't buy it. Kate ended up buying it with her own money because I'm like, I'm not buying that. And that was the Tea Dragon Society card game by Steve Ellis, Tyler Tinsley, published by Renegade Games. Now, if you're a hardcore deck building player, this game is not for you. I mean, you literally play your whole hand one card at a time face up. But it's really cute. It works. It's a great intro to people who want to learn how to play a deck building game, so you can maybe throw Dominion at them later. It's based on a comic book series that is fantastic because Kate picked up at least one of them and I read it, and it's really good. It just surprised me because I was expecting complete garbage out of this thing.
Is this?
And I've played at least like 15 games of this.
Huh.
You know, and you know, I know Andy, you got a kid. You know, throw this one out, see what you think. You know, it's not that complicated. It's you know,
My kid like freaking does engineering diagrams, man. Honestly.
well, when you have a little,
was it Dragon Tea Party does something?
the Tea Dragon Society card game.
Ha.
That's what it's called. Yeah, from Renegade Games. That was honestly my biggest surprise. That was everyone I talked to said don't play it, and I was like, oh, cool, okay, I'll give it a shot.
Did they not realize that that's basically a good way to get you to buy said game?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, this is when I didn't even buy. Kate had to buy it. My daughter had to buy it because I wasn't going to touch it. And I was like, don't buy it, don't buy it. She didn't enjoy it. So next up, I wasn't sure if these counted as games of 2018 because they're reprints or new editions or whatnot. And I've got 4 of these here. And the first one I want to talk about is the Space Empires 4X Replicators expansion, which is the second expansion for Space Empires 4X. Now, a few episodes ago, Joe got to listen to me rant about how Space Empires 4X is a game no one likes, no one plays, and no one talks about, and I was super sad, and I was super ranty about it because it's good. And
well, you might have sold them out, TC. Since then, Game Surplus sold out of Space Empires 4X.
And a lot of that rent had to do with playing the expansion, which added a new cooperative element, added a new race, a faction, and the more I play Space Empires with the expansions, it's slowly creeping up to Twilight Imperium. It still hasn't quite got there yet because Space Empires is still a really brutal game where it has elimination, and so you have to have the right set of people to play it. But the whole thing's modular, and you can like play it however you want. And oh man, that Space Empires expansion just throwing so many more goodies to choose from. It's from who did that? Jim Crone from GMT Games. Oh, look, there's one. Ding ding.
Yep.
All right.
Wow.
The second one I want to talk about is Brass. I wasn't sure if I could have technically thrown this on my top 10, I would, but technically it's just a reprint of an older game. A really, really pretty reprint of an older game with really, really awesome poker chips. Now, Brass is my favorite economic game ever. The reprint just confirmed it. It's everything I wanted out of a Brass game to make it look pretty. It came with the bonus if you could buy a second. What's the Birmingham?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I played that one.
Oh, it is my favorite economic game just because of the logistics component. It ignited my Martin Wallace man crush. Roxley Games, Roxley Games. They just that production was fantastic, and they were even. I mean that was how a Kickstarter should have been done. They held it back. There were issues. They made sure everything was good. They play tested the rules. They made changes. They streamlined it. Oh, if you have not played Brass, I know I'm talking to the wrong crowd. There's no reason for you not to. I don't like playing Brass because it's ugly. Well, guess what? It's not ugly anymore. I don't want to hear that complaint. Another one, and this one really caught me by surprise because, again, me and Joe were talking about this when I remember which podcast, and because I kind of ripped this one off because I had the card game version of it. So when they announced Arkham Horror 3rd Edition, I was like, yeah, whatever. Got the card game. Well, I don't care what they do with the board game anymore. And I actually got a chance to try it. And it's interesting because Nikki Valens, who's the lead designer on this one, who did that Legacy of Dragonholt choose your own adventure game that I talked about a few years ago, got her hands on this. So Kevin Wilson and Richard Lanius, I don't think had too much to do with it. But what this designer did was took all the elements that I love from the card game and integrated into the board game with a really awesome narrative. And it completely, I would even argue this is a completely different game. But it changed it up so much. It made it so much easier to play and more enjoyable to play. I felt bad that I wrote it off. It's a really solid production. It's Fantasy Flight, so you know the components are going to be awesome. It's got a good story. It's not just putting Doom on the Doom counter and watching this thing appear and you have to fight it. The one scenario we played, there was a lot more going on. The characters seem to be better written. Yeah, if you like Arkham and you never like second edition, but you like the card game and you like the mechanics of the card game, but you don't like building decks, this is a solid second choice, and one that I'm really ashamed that I overlooked. And finally, if we're talking about reprints, we can't talk about one of the biggest reprints that hit. And I'm mentioning this one because my son is completely obsessed with this game because it's very tactile and it's got marbles and they roll down things and knock people off. And it's another game that I wrote off because I thought it was kind of silly, but Liam asked and asked and asked, and we finally got it down. And he really took to it. That's Fireball Island by Rob Davio and Restoration Games. Man, if you're gonna do a crappy roll and move game and you want to do it better, and this is the way to do it. My only beef with it is that all the Kickstarter stuff to get now super expensive. So it has the Rising Sun issue I have where I want it, but I don't want to pay for all the extra stuff now that's super expensive.
Yeah.
But I was surprised by how much you like this one, and it's fun, it's good, and my kids love it, and they ask for it, and hey, cool, I'm in. And I'm surprised Rob Davio had a fairly rough time after Seafall. It's nice to see him come back with something so successful, which he might be on my top 10 list here. Think about that.
More of what's to come. All right. Well, thanks, TC. So now we're on to your top 10, right?
Now we're on to my top 10.
That was it. Okay, cool. Yeah. So after Fireball Island and a slew of other non-top 10, I wonder what made your top 10. And that, by the way, resets the GMT count. So that one from before does not count.
Oh, okay. I was going to give you that one.
Nice. You're like my son, making a game and changing the rules when I start to win.
Yeah, that was just not fair, man. I know he's going to have 15 games on this list. Like, come on, who does that?
Well, Joe, you get to 30.
So, yeah, let's get to
number 10.
Well, before we get to this, I have to say we have to get to the Andrew Dennison Award. My number 11.
Okay, that's going to be... Okay, that is the number 11.
Okay, so I am instigating. This is the first official annual Andrew Dennison Award because I just wanted to put an 11th game on here. Now, what was my criteria for the Andy Award? Well, first of all, it had to be something sciencey, right?
Okay.
It had to be something that involved science, whether rockets, animals, something like that. 2, it had to be something he hadn't heard of or something so incredibly weird that he just peripherally heard of it. It's got to be published by some company I've never heard of, designed by people I don't even know, and I've got to run across it by chance. And it has to be a game from 2017 because when Andy reviews games from the current year, he's like, yeah, I'm just playing games I've played this year, no matter what year they are.
Nice. So it had to be from 2017.
Or it has to be not from 2018.
Yes.
Okay,
I get you. Exclude you.
So this is it. Okay, so Andy, I gotta tell me how good I hit this on the head, and so I'm gonna try to make this a yearly tradition because I you guys inspire me to try new stuff and try things I wouldn't normally try, and then when I run across something I think you guys would enjoy, I'd like to throw it in an entertaining fashion. So my winner this year for the Dennison Award is Biosphere.
Oh no, I had heard of that.
Crap. Okay, it's Biosphere, published by. It was designed by. There's like 4 guys I can't even pronounce: Christoph, Max, Philip, Tillman, whatever. Published by DDD Verlag, which I'm assuming is a German company.
Oh yeah.
This is I had suffered through a lot of Essen games this year from people I knew who hauled back a bunch of stuff, and I was playing a bunch of them, and this one stuck out. I'm like, oh my god, this is an Andy game. It's got dice that you don't roll. It's got a really interesting way of using them because you're basically your dice just show like the age of your animal, and then there's like this death dial that spins, and once that death dial hits the number of the die, those animals just are dead. You're trying to multiply in a region, essentially there's like this victory condition, and you're putting dice out on this biome in different areas, and you're trying to get like certain chains and conditions to hit. Very interesting. It was described to me as dominant species.
Yeah, that's kind of what I heard about it, and then a bunch of people are like, no,
it's really not. But that doesn't mean it's not any good, because it does still nail its theme. It is probably the most innovative way to use dice I've seen this year, by far. It wasn't that hard to learn, but there was a lot of depth, so I wanted to play it a few more. I still want to play it more, and this just screamed Andy. And
yeah. I thought about picking it up at one point.
And it was published in 2017. It was a game I never heard of, a publisher I never heard of, designers I never heard of, and it was science. I'm like, this is it. This is my annual Andy Award. But
checks all the boxes, dude. That's
legitimately, I could have missed it. Like, the only reason I think I saw it was my every few days perusing Game Surplus, like I happened to see Biosphere on it, and I was like, what the crap is that? That sounds like something I would like. So I opened it up.
I totally would have bought this one at WBC if I didn't have to fly back home and take everything with me in my luggage.
Yeah.
It looks really cool.
It is really cool. Now, I'm not sure about the availability, but yeah, like I said, this one just screamed Andy. The moment that box opened, I'm like, yep. This is making the list somehow, some way, somewhere.
There you go, man.
So there you go. I'm sorry you heard of it. I thought I had you on this. I got everything but one of my conditions, so that's like
that's still pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. That right there just about nails it. It's one that looks interesting to me as well. All right, well, now I'm looking forward to finally being able to hear number 10.
All right, number 10. So I'll try to keep you guessing here. Number 10 was the big game at GameStorm last year. And then GameStorm's around March. Everyone was playing this. It just came out. And I was like, okay, this is good. I like it. It's not quite what I thought it would be. It's okay. It's definitely better than this designer's previous game, which I really did not like, but I still think I need to play more of it. And that is Rising Sun by Eric Lang, published by Simon Games. I always keep a list of games that stuck my attention, especially the first of the year, because I get so obsessed later in the year, I forget about the stuff at the beginning of the year. I've played this quite a few times at GameStorm. Really enjoyed it. It's not quite as it is described as diplomacy. I would argue that you're just basically trying to get someone to join you and screw them over some way. So you're just hosing one person, not the whole board. And it's just kind of disappointing. But the production was nice. I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than Blood Rage. I'm telling you right now that I really enjoyed it more than Blood Rage. But by the time I played it, I couldn't get all the cool stuff because it already come out. It basically shipped around March, so everyone was bringing their super copies, and I was sad. But that didn't detract from my enjoyment of it. It made me realize that, Eric Lang still's got a really good designs left, because I still hold everything to Chaos in the Old World, and I'm telling you, Rising Sun is up there. I liked it quite a bit, and I can't forget about that because a bunch of other stuff came later this year. So, did you guys play Rising Sun?
I have managed to miss every game of this that has ever occurred in game night. Not purposefully, because I'm actually interested in playing it. It just always seems to be, here's Rising Sun. Oh, and Andy's teaching a weird game over there.
It's very much the truth. I played it once, TC. I saw that there was a lot here, and I liked the way that it opened up the system of Blood Rage from being more of a Euro where there's quite a bit of certainty of what's available to be had, and I think it just pushes it into that realm of more of a negotiation style game, though it's definitely not firmly in the diplomacy realm, as you mentioned. I think it's really a beautiful overall production, great one to put on your list.
And I enjoyed it quite a bit. Again, I just wish I would have had hindsight being 2020. I should have gotten all of it.
No, hindsight's 2020. Actually,
how's the plays been? At least in Ames, I know of this game causing at least 2 rage quit from the tables.
Well, people know my play style anyway, so it's always a hard sell to get someone to join me as a partner in this game. because they know pretty much, especially people who played Rex with me, know how that's usually going to end up. So it's usually a hard sell, and usually they're really quick to throw me under the bus before I can throw them under the bus. But you know, by the time that pairing happens, we're too usually worrying about each other, then someone else just takes off. But doesn't mean it's not a whole bunch of fun. I love the sculpts. I love the expansions. Good stuff. That's Rising Sun.
Kind of love like the giant monsters that are basically the same as a standard unit as far as I do, but they're huge.
Yeah, there's no mistaking. The Cool Mini or Not still knows how to produce minis. They're beautiful.
Yeah, not 4 foot tall Cthulhu beautiful. Go ahead.
Ready for my number 9? Give me a count, Joe.
Number 9.
Number 9 is the game that I wish Splotter would have done, because it reminded me a hell of a lot of a Splotter game. And I never thought I would enjoy a Splotter game, because I have a lot of issues. I have a really bad love-hate relationship with Splotter games, mainly because my wife doesn't enjoy them, and you know, there's a lot. But this was surprising because it reminded me of a Splotter game. My wife, Carissa, really enjoyed it and handed us our butt playing it, and we played it several more times since. And I didn't realize it was this type of game because the title itself implied it might have been a dungeon crawl if you did not know what you were getting into. And that would be Founders of Gloomhaven.
Oh, wow. Cool.
By Isaac Childress and published by Cephalofair Games. This one really took me by surprise. I'm playing this thing going, I've played this. This is the Great Zimbabwe. Except I'm like a fantasy creatures, and I'm like a bug swarm, a sentient bug swarm. And we're laying tiles out. And it's all super logistical with these crazy cards that come out you can take actions on. And our brains melted, and it was Carissa who finally got her mush brain back together and ended up figuring out a path to victory and just destroyed us. It was good. I was not expecting this. I have a game called Gloomhaven. I was not expecting a Splotter game at all out of this thing. It's a beautiful production, tons of wooden components, meeples, unique meeples for each faction, unique color. Rulebook is very clear. We had a few issues, but not too bad. And we played it several times since. But yeah, if you want a really deep logistical board game, the Founders of Gloomhaven is fantastic. I love it, love it, love it. I'm sure you guys have played this.
I have not actually. It really.
You never played Founders yet?
Oh, Andy, you need to play Founders. This is right up your alley.
Legitimately, it's weird. Like, I know it's been played, but it is like not hit the table much when I've been around.
What? I swear I've seen you playing this game, dude. That is so crazy. No, I'm not disagreeing. I just feel like I've got memories that are now, I'm like questioning, like, was that a dream? Like, why am I thinking that Andy played it? So you've not played Founders of Gloomhaven. Well, let you give me my 2 cents. It is, like you said, TC, very puzzly, crunchy, hard. The type of player interaction that I think Andy would love.
Yeah, there's so much screwage in this game. It's unreal.
Oh man, like you just want to like as soon as you've made a plan or a path towards getting a resource, it feels like you've always got to just kind of be careful of what all the other players are doing, because there's just so many different options that you have, but they're ones that like are clearly better moves that, like providing the resources that the table's going to be wanting, which is essentially any resource in the game that's not being currently well supplied. Being able to predict that makes it feel a bit like the game Brass, where, being able to maneuver, what way the market's heading and not just where it's at right now. I feel like that's part of Gloomhaven. Founders of Gloomhaven, I should say, but just the way that you decide the buildings of the game that will score you points is all based on like a blind bidding system, but it's not as bad as you might think. No. It's got resources that you're forced to bid. So like everybody has certain resources they have to bid, otherwise they're going to lose them no matter what. So you may as well bid. Then there are some that you can hang on to that are worth points if you hang on to them. But I thought that was a really slick way of doing it. Now, I do think that just because this is a different style of game, Andy, this feels like the type of game that is just along the lines of thinking that you would really appreciate. It feels like there's just a very rare choice that doesn't have reverberating impacts on the whole rest of the game. And really, like, the way that the route building works, at least with the roads, feels a lot like track in an 18xx game.
Yeah, like, it's good. And then different buildings. Yeah. Andy, play this. I'm so curious to hear what you think about it.
It's more you than me, it feels like, Andy. And it does feel like it's still me enough to be me, if that makes sense, to keep me playing it. So, and I'm not, like, I might be totally wrong here. I might have absolutely misplayed it, misassessed it. But I would say that, like, TC brought up the Great Zimbabwe by Splotter. I prefer the Great Zimbabwe, but that's, like, also, like, my favorite Splotter. And I know, Andy, that the elements that you like about Splotter are maybe weakest in the Great Zimbabwe. I think some of those elements might even be stronger in Founders of Gloomhaven when you look at other elements like, I'd say that it's almost like more of a food chain magnet than it really is. I don't want to say more of, TC, because I do think you're right. It is very close. But I think that there are elements here, Andy, that might maybe even push you to prefer this one over Great Zimbabwe and like it more than a Splotter. Just total conjecture.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, I haven't, like, been actively avoiding it. It's just like the stars haven't aligned yet kind of thing.
Well, make them align, Andy. I want to hear what you think about this one.
All right. I have to tell Trent to bring his copy, I think.
Okay, give me a number. Give me a number, Joe.
Number 8.
You're right, 8. Okay. Number 8. Of course, this was going to be on my list just because I love this designer. And, I've got... He's part of my, I have a Martin Wallace man crush, and I also have a man crush on this designer as well. And that is Fort Sumner, the Secession Crisis of 1860 to 1861 by Mark Herman, published by GMT Games. There's been a lot of flack thrown at this game, from it's not thematic enough to it's too short, but what Mark Herman was shooting for is this one was a fast-playing, card-driven game based using the same mechanics of Twilight Struggle and his own Washington's War, and what else has he done? Empire of the Sun. I don't think it was made for people who really like in-depth card-driven games like we were just talking about 1960. The success I've had with this game is showing people who have never played historic games before or have even experienced a card-driven game. And I can show them how the system works in like less than 20 minutes. And we can play like 4 games a night on this thing. It's a really interesting design. There's like the cubes you place on the board come from a crisis area so you got to figure out how you play them and how fast you want this crisis to go up, because the crisis is, the Civil War breaking out and the South seceding from the North. I think it's a more thematic theme than there gets given credit for. Very simple to teach. It's like a 4 or 5 page GMT rulebook. I mean, that's like amazingly short for a GMT game. I like it. My wife likes it. People who are interested in wargaming or historical games in general, I've had a lot of success with this, and I get them after they buy that. They're like, "Oh, I like this. What should I play?" Well, there's Twilight Struggle there. There's Washington's War. I'm looking forward to that. I think this is the first of a Final Crisis series, so that I know there's going to be more coming out, hopefully. But I love it. It's compared to 13 Days, and there's another game it's compared to, which I can't argue that. It's a solid, good little historical game. And I know if Norm's still listening. Norm, this is a great one to teach with. You should break it out and look for it.
That was Fort Sumter?
Fort Sumter, the Secession Crisis.
The Secession Crisis by Mark Herman.
Yeah, I played that with Trent 2 or 3 times, I think. And yeah, I think it made a little bit more intuitive sense than I think 13 Days, but is right about the same level of complexity. Except there's not a track that you blow up the world and lose. So.
No, that is missing.
Rats. At that point, the technology was just not quite in reach.
Yeah. And I think my favorite mechanic of the game is you get a deck, you get 4 cards, I believe. You play of some, and then you like bury the other one. And then at the end of the game, you like figure out which, and those determine like a final scoring. So you want to play these cards, or do you want to bury one to try to get a better in-game score? it's really neat. I like some of the design decisions here, and I'm really it's like Churchill in a way where you're like, oh, I really like Churchill, but I'm really looking forward to the next refinement of that system. Mm-hmm. So I'm really looking forward to the next Final Crisis game because I'm looking forward to a refinement of the system.
Very cool. That was number 8. So now number 7.
Number 7 is a bit of a stretch. I was debating even put this one on the list because I kind of like it, but I appreciate what it does, and it's a way for me to play a space game with people who don't like being super aggressive because it's a Euro game at its heart with not a lot of aggressiveness to it, but you're still exploring, and it plays in a short amount of time, and I still got my tech tree and everything. And that is Horizons by Levi Moat, published by Daily Magic Games. I personally, this is kind of a tainted one because I know the designer, he lives here in this area, and I got to play test this game quite a bit. And a funny side story is that while I was play testing it, Levi was playing with us, and he obviously knows this game and knew how to get these chains and combos going and just crush us. And so I was just complaining the whole time about how broken it was and how dumb it was and how it was just ridiculous. And then after we finished, I told him, actually, I really enjoyed it. And I actually made a designer of the game fall out of his chair from laughter. He's like, I thought you said he hated it. I'm like, oh, no, I'm just giving you a hard time. When I start losing a game, I got to entertain myself somehow and make it for my lack of knowing how to play it. But it's a really, I'd call it like a 2X game because there's still exploration and building up your alien race with
expand.
Yeah, expand. And it does it in a really neat way. You go out and explore. You have your little tableau board. You're building up your technology. You're building up stuff. It's really neat. Each system has their sun in the middle, and you're like, it's a hexagon, so you can build 8 all around. You can put colonies out. Really, really cool little game. I would like it more if you could blow crap up. It's got really neat. You play a card, and you get a little special power. It's a really cool little game. It didn't get a lot of buzz. We just it shipped and it kind of disappeared. But if you have a group of people and you like space games and they don't like to fight, they just want to explore and have interactions and maybe a little bit of screwage, not a whole lot, Horizon's a good choice. And I liked it. I liked it a lot more than I thought it would after Levi described it. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention a game I played at least 30 times on my top 10. So I don't know if this would be something you guys are interested in, but I'd take a look at it. And
I'd definitely give it a try, man. It looks pretty cool. I mean, it's got a sci-fi theme, so maybe Andy would at least, allow it to exist in the same room as him.
I'm on game for sci-fi. I like
it. It looks cool. I mean, the Exterminate is of the 4 X's, it's the one that it makes or breaks a game for me, and so taking that out maybe makes it a little bit of a safer bet for me to try. But then again, TC, when it's all said and done, you'd rather see me breaking than making, I think.
That's true, but it plays like in an hour. It's like at the most a 90-minute game. So you just play. If you guys want to play like a dry, boring Euro, well, I got one at least with a space theme with planets and stuff I can explore. We're playing this. Come on.
Nice. Well, that was number 7, Horizons, and now number 6.
Okay, number 6. I got to thank you guys for it because of you Nimrods. I have to play some economic game, and inevitably one of them's good enough to make my top 10 because I'm surprised by it. And this is. This is a reprint, but I don't care. I enjoyed it so much it's going in my top 10. And this was because I did not want to pay the price for the original version of this because it was out of print and going for a fortune. So when Capstone Games announced they got it, did a Kickstarter that finally shipped, I finally got to try it. And that's The Estates.
Ooh, whoa, did not expect this one on here. Have I even heard your thoughts on this game yet, TC?
Probably not, because I've been playing it fairly recently. And it's designed by Klaus Zog, published by Capstone Games. Why do I like this as an economic game? It's one of the few games I can think of where I can pull off a winning score in negative numbers. This is probably the most brutal economic game I've ever seen. It's probably one of my favorite bidding games out there. Because holy crap, if you get the right group of people around this game, knowing that you're just going to just stab each other. It's not even the back. It's just straight out in your face. It's got a closed economy, which I love from Flow of History. It's even got a meter mechanic where you can embezzle to make that economy even tighter. Mm-hmm. You can just like build up on dice for your buildings, and you can cap it off, and then like just buy a bid on a barrier, and just throw it so far out that everybody on that row is going to get negative points and hate your face.
And then put the mayor on that row.
So it's like even more. Boom. It is vicious. I was not expecting, and it's simple. It is a simple game, and I think that's reflected because I think Capscom has this under their simply complex games.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful choice for that line. I like the Climbers, which came out a few years earlier. I'm looking forward to their whatever Clay decides to put on his next.
I'm really hoping it's Hinkle and Stein.
Yeah. That's what I want. I was, and this was because I think is either Andy or Trent, maybe it was you, Joe, kept talking about Nuit Heimet.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
Heimet. Yeah, it was like, oh, this is great. And I looked it up. I'm like, I'm not going to pay $300 for this dumb thing.
Yeah.
No way. No way.
You could like make yourself real easily. That's what a lot of people did.
And so I just waited for this reprint and waited. And I was like, I'm going to play this. I'm going to talk about how much I hated it. Right. And it was the complete opposite. We had the good group of people. We were having a lot of fun with it. We were laughing. We were screwing each other over. I think the winning score is like -3. I think it was one of the games we had. Wonderful, wonderful game. Easy to teach. Just you have to go in with hard skin. You can't get personal with this game. But man, if you want a really awesome economic game with bidding that's great, the Estates is such a good game, and it's easily a top 10 game, and it's easily because of you guys.
Yeah. The thing I always like about it too is like weird metas can develop in your group. Like, so for like us around here, like if anyone would bid and win like a 6 value and then put it in the one that could only like the first row where it had the barrier around it, so that was the only one that could be there. Like everyone would be like, oh, well, that row's going to be negative now.
Yeah.
So I did that once, and then I purposely started winning auctions for cubes of other people's colors, and then I started putting them in that row to make them help me.
Yeah, it's just the dynamic is great, and then just something about being able to embezzle in a game, just saying it and doing it just feels good. Hey, guess what I'm doing? I'm embezzling all this money that we need. It's like it's like $1 million denomination, I think. Yeah, so you're like embezzling $1 million. It's like that's just awesome.
Well, and the really cool thing is like there is a legitimate strategy in this game of having no points.
Yeah.
Like, you can win by like purposely never having any color associated with you and then making sure everyone else's is as negative as possible.
Just tank it. Yeah, I could talk all night about this game, but that just show you why it made my top 10. I don't care if it's a reprint. It's on there.
It's like the freaking kids games. There's all these like lovely little like colored blocks. It's like, oh, it looks so cute.
Yeah, I think that this is if Reiner Knizia took off the gloves and designed something that's tight but elegant and brutal, just straight up brutal.
Yeah, brutal. I just want to emphasize the brutal part.
Yeah, no, I will never play this with my wife. I will be out of the house. So.
And I would say game is required if you're thinking of going into a financial venture with someone in real life. Like, really? Okay, we're going to see how this works out.
Yeah, very much, man. And I think that like if you go into it with that attitude, like play around with the economic, knives that this game gives you, and I think you'll have a real blast. That was number 6, and now for the top half, starting with number 5.
Number 5. Okay, this game. Okay. This game has the unique distinction of having the most eye rolls from Joe when we talked about it on another podcast. Because every time we mentioned a mechanic, he was just like, "Oh my god!" But this is another one I want to mention to Norm specifically because I think it's a great game to bring out for classroom. But The reason it's not higher is because the rule book is a monster and a bear, just because it does something really, really different. And that is Cataclysm, a Second World War from GMT Games, designed by two guys I never heard of, Scott Moldon and William Tesovich. This game, if you like Triumph and Tragedy, but didn't like the block part of it, the block game, and just wanted to like focus on the political version and not worry about the war version with the war game, this one's it. This one's all about preparing for a second world war that may or may not happen historically, figuring out the politics, trying to keep your nation from collapsing while preparing for war, and taking the battle system and simplifying it to like 5 pieces, like airplanes, tanks, submarines. I mean, just really simple. The downside of this one is that in order to really see what the designers are shooting for, you have to play the whole shebang. You can't play like the little scenarios. And the whole shebang is like a 5 or 6 hour ordeal. It really
medium length.
Yeah, you really need to understand how the game works by playing a shorter scenario. So it kind of has the Churchill problem where people who tried just playing the shorter games didn't like it without playing the full game. And I also call that maybe the John Company problem, where people are just playing the first game without understanding how the full game worked. But if you can get past that and you want a war game that really takes a really large view up and looks at the politics of how everybody interact, because you're playing the communists, the fascists, or the Western powers. So they have different things and different restrictions depending on who you play. And it's essentially a 3-player game, but you can play up to 5. I'm going to get back to you on this one because I have a full game planted this for GameStorm. But it's if you can get past the rules and get past the Chit Cup, which I know when we were talking about this earlier, every time we said Chit Cup, that was when Joe started going, "Oh God, you said Chit Cup like 400,000 times. Oh, I want to die and kill myself." But yeah, that's how the events are determined, by pulling out your chits from this cup, and that's when you take your turn, as when your chits drawn. Really interesting game, really unique system. Bit of a heavy lift trying to figure out how all these different systems work, but if you want to play a alternative World War II game without worrying about charts and die roll modifiers and all that crap, this is a good one. But honestly, I'd probably wait to a second printing of this to get mounted boards and stuff. But still a damn good game, and one I really enjoyed this year.
Well, that's number 2 for the GMT games on the top 10 for TC. We have 4 left to go. Andy predicted 4 total. I predicted 3 total. It is heating up, everybody.
There we go. Got the race.
For specifically Cataclysm, I don't have anything, unfortunately, to add by myself, but I just remember from the episode of The Long View on Cataclysm that Mo had a lot to share about the differing scenarios that come in the game. It sounds like, TC, you've settled on a preferred way to play the game, but it sounds like this is a really interesting, unique system that you wanted to see more conflicts represented in this kind of, in the confines of this Chit Cup.
Yeah, there you go. Chit Cup. Woo!
Yep. Lots of good chit here.
I just got my new one. Like, one of my nephews got me like a Jabba the Hutt cereal bowl for Christmas. It's just got like Jabba sitting there with his mouth like hanging open as the bowl. So that's my new draw cup for board game chits.
Nice. Yeah, you should do. They should merchandise even further and have like a Pizza the Hut one.
Pizza the Hut.
By even saying that phrase, you realize we are totally dating ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure that we got some listeners that can share with us. Definitely some folks in our chat here who are hopefully following our references a little bit.
How many people would know what you were saying in your high school class, though? That's the question.
Oh, well, Andy, I never asked myself that question, man. Honestly, like, I would rather they not know. I'd rather, this is my thing. This is a me thing. By the way, if anybody is listening that's one of my students, thank you for coming and supporting. Also, how are you actually able to pay attention to this with all the references that, data sauce? How come you can't do that to me in my class?
Joe will apply your extra credit for coming to listen tomorrow. It's all.
Yeah. Shh, Andy. Actually, the extra credit in my class is for actually being able to take the spiciness of a Mexican candy in my Spanish classroom. Like that's always like, I'm always like props when people can like take like the intenso, the most chile. Anyway, I'm just getting down the rabbit hole here. That's time for that is during your top 10, Andy, not TC. TC, you deserve much better. Let's get back to your top 10 with number 4.
Number 4. This was a game I did not anticipate making a list at all, because when it was purchased, I was like, no way. What this game was based on was so maybe. I mean, it's one of those games you played early on in your board gaming career and then try to look back on it fondly later, but you're like, yeah, that wasn't that good, but it was still fun. And this is a Rob Daviau game, so he'll make the list again. And this is Betrayal Legacy, designed by Rob Daviau et al. There's like a ton of people contributed to this thing. Published by Avalon Hills, which we should honestly say Wizards of the Coast. Why did this game make my top 10? Well, it is now my daughter's favorite game. And the first time we played it, she triggered the haunt. And she had to go into a room and read it. And all we heard for 30 minutes was maniacal giggling. Now, other than that, what makes this game better than Betrayal at House on the Hill? Well, they've gone back and refined some stuff. And I honestly think that, because I've always said that Betrayal at House on the Hill is held together by theme and duct tape. Because there's no other thing holding that game together. The rules certainly are not. But you could stumble upon a crap scenario that could almost destroy the game and make you not want to play it again.
Yeah, but there was at least 30 minutes finding the right tokens once the haunt actually happens.
Yeah. This one, the fact that you can personalize stuff in the game that can come back later, that you're playing a family and you're playing the house, and that what's really cool in this one is the house is changing. It's getting different things going. So we're playing 5. That plays up to 5. I would argue that's a 6-player game because the 6th player is the house. Because it is changing, it's doing things, it's attacking you in different ways as you play the game. I can't talk too much about it because I don't want to spoil the surprises. We are halfway through this game. Another really cool aspect about this game is after we play it, unlike Pandemic Legacy or any other legacy, once we finish this game, we will have a complete playable copy of Betrayal at House on the Hill. We can play it over and over again, which means we can maybe get that expansion finally. So, the fact that you're not destroying the game after you play it, that you can play it again, it's just completely personalized. It's still got the same rules where you roll damage and just a lot of die rolling, but adding that narrative that you can customize to the game really makes the game shine, and it improves on Betrayal at House on the Hill in a lot of ways I wasn't anticipating. And it's good. It's probably one of the best legacy games I've played, with the exception of Pandemic Legacy, because that was such a unique thing that came out that year. And it's really surprising to see Rob Daviau come back from Seafall so well after that with this. So it just goes to show that you may have a few clunkers out there. Just keep going, keep trying, and keep refining, and don't give up, and you'll get a home run like Betrayal Legacy. And it'd be a game that I'd be curious to hear. If again, you have to have like a set number of people willing to play it. I think it's 12 games, so that's kind of hard to manage. But I would love to hear you guys what you think of this. Just some of the narrative and the twist this game throws at you is so cool, and it nails like the horror movie vibe, Where it's like, oh, this is a house, it's all messed up. Oh my god, what's this house gonna? It's a creepy haunted house, and we're exploring it, and you're not getting trapped in the basement like you did in the original game. They've actually fixed some stuff, and it's nice to see that. And that was a big surprise for me this year. Was Betrayal Legacy.
Nice. Well, Betrayal Legacy is one that I'd be very interested to try, and if I feel like it's got kind of a weird spot that I don't think is going to be super realistic for me to focus on at this point, kind of like Werewolf Legacy. But I'm more interested in Betrayal Legacy, especially with the positive things you said about it, TC, because I do think that this is the type of game that the Legacy system would work well for, because I'm really looking for more of a story that carries on between sessions from a Legacy game. And, you know, like a lot of Euro Legacy games are very well, you know, crafted. And here I am, like, almost arguing my exact, like, I feel like I'm my own doppelganger now that I realize what I'm saying. But, like, you know, what I loved about Gloomhaven's Legacy system is that it was laid onto a really solid game, whereas, like, you know, it kind of hooked me onto the fact that Legacy can do a lot of really crazy things. And as long as there's ways to, like, reset players and make them feel like they still have, like, life, you know, and a potential for the future of the game, you know, for actually having fun and enjoying themselves, unlike, you know, some games that where you just get so behind that there's no way to ever catch up.
Seafault.
I'm interested, but I just never played it, and I don't know how realistic it is to consider it.
Oh, yeah. So it's good stuff. Like, it was a big surprise. Very nice.
And now to the top, number 3.
Okay, my top 3 are pretty much interchangeable, but this one, this is number 3, is because A, I don't own the game. B, I've only played it 3 times. But, man, every single game I've played of this, it is great. I hear people complain about it. I just like, you're wrong. And I will argue them to their face. This design is incredible. I am so mad at myself for missing out on this. I am on the reprint list. So hopefully in January or February, I'll get my copy. And that is Root by Cole Worley. By Leader Games. Wow, guys. This Cole took the coin system and saw what he liked and didn't like, rethemed it so more people would want to play it, and just knocked this thing out of the park. It is a fantastic game. My kids haven't played it, but I'm excited to. The complaints I hear about it is like, well, this one faction is more powerful than others. You know, I've heard that argument every single time a new edition of a coin system comes out. So I'm good at ignoring that. So I don't believe that. I just think that probably like coin, like any Abyss, if you're playing the cats, in any Abyss, if you play the government, you've got to put your foot on everyone at all times. And your strongest player has to play the cats. I've personally played the Woodland Alliance, and I loved it. I loved running around causing revolutions and causing this. I liked when people came to my place or moved through, they had to give me a card. I love how easy it is to track victory points in this game. In those coin games, you like got these thing victories, like you have to do this, plus, you know, how the population thinks of their opposition, or like they're in opposition or they're in support. It's a simple tracking. It's just all cumulative. Nothing resets. Nothing goes backwards. Brilliant game, wonderfully executed. The art is fantastic. I liked Vast a lot. I am officially done with Vast now, because now I want to play Root. And as soon as I get my hands on this, I'm going to put this thing through the ringer. Like I said, I'm excited that my kids will want to play a coin game with me now. I love the card play. I cannot think of a single thing I did not like about this game. The one thing I could think of was the color of the board, but then you flip it and you got it's winter white, so you can see everything. It's got a random setup. You can do a suggested stand-up. The rule book is clear. I wish they had a glossary, but since, you know, I'm familiar enough with the system it's based on, it was no big deal. Oh my goodness. Root is fantastic, guys. I know you guys played it. I just got to just heap praises on this thing. It's awesome.
Yeah, I gotta agree. Like it was a surprise for me too. One of the few surprise games I had this year, where I didn't get in on it either, and kind of originally wrote it off. And honestly, like, I was being a butt, because it was like, I have coin games. I don't need this little cutesy game. And then I played it. I'm like, okay, I'm an idiot. Like, order now before I leave Game Store. Like. Yeah, and basically after I ordered it, I then immediately went home and popped off an email to Carmen at Game Surplus. I'm like, when you get the expansion, I want one. Hold it. I will buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome game. And Yeah, it's basically like coin. It's a coin game on speed. Because, like, if you're not out of the gate running with your faction full tilt boogie from turn 1, you're lost. Like, that's fast. Like, the first game I kind of played around a little bit. And then I think it was like the 4th game, I played the bird programming faction again. And, like, I just, flew out of the gate, like, murdering everything around me as quickly as possible. And, I think I lost by 1 point still, but it was crazy.
Yeah, you gotta put the pedal to the metal on this thing, and if the cat faction isn't on top of things, they are not gonna do well. And I think that's probably, I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but that seems like it's gonna be one of the more challenging ones. But oh man, good stuff, Cole.
Well, the one time the cat faction like kicked our teeth in, I think a lot of people who play the cat faction try to like get out other sawmills and stuff as quickly as possible. And what this guy did was he got the things that allow you to recruit cats out faster than anything else. And then just like, it was like, we beat down the cats to 4 regions, but then it was just like an exponentially increasing swarm of cats that were in that region to destroy all of us.
It can, I would say though that the cats almost have the most deceptively difficult task at hand, because like you really need to, make choices that I'm not used to making in like, usually your dudes on a map games, you start like from a certain spawn area and then move out, but the cats sort of start like equally spread across the board and have like a marginal area of influence, but you really have to, it's like just one faction has enough game there to where I keep playing it. People will call the cats the most straightforward of any of the factions. I've played it the most by far. I think I'm about 4 games in just playing the cats alone, maybe 5. And, I've won once with them, but it's just been a hell of a ride. Every game has felt very different, not just because of the different factions that were in play, because we've now got, with the expansion and the weirdness factor of many of those races or whatever factions, the otters and the lizard cult, which of course, they're everybody's sweetheart because they suck. But there's just so much here. It's almost just changed. Like, I feel like it's just changed the landscape of what our groups like, just the way that we play with this sort of a system. It's like Vast was this if every faction was fun to learn and not really to play. Root takes that to the next level. That's all I have to say. Great choice for your list.
Yeah, that I was. This, if I had a biggest regret of 2018, this would be the top.
Yeah,
I feel like I need to email Cole personally and say I was wrong.
Yeah. That's kind of like, with Cole. And I don't know. I'm still kicking myself because I didn't get in on the PAX Pamir 2nd edition because I didn't have the money and I had the 1st edition. I'm like, everything I've read says I should not regret this later. And I know I probably am because every time I've doubted Cole, I regretted it.
Yeah. I hit a designer. I know we've talked to him personally.
Mm-hmm.
I just love everything about his designs. He has a really interesting intuition about things, and you can see that in some of his design choices for Root. I mean, I am stunned that GMT did not pick up on something like this. But hey, that's their loss. Leader got him, so good for them.
Yeah, well, I think emailed or messaged him once because I said that the thing about Cole Worley I like is. He comes off as extremely intelligent, and he very much is. But he's that rare type of intelligence where by talking and listening to him, you feel smarter with him. Not like I'm stupid compared to this human. Like he really, and I think his designs do that too. Like they start out kind of simple, but like they make you feel like you're making some really intelligent, awesome plans out of things. So
you're discovering these beautiful systems when really like they're just you're just like becoming aware of them. It's like that whole sure, I'm discovering it, but it was already discovered long before you were there.
Yeah. No, And so many of his games are just so different, but yet so smart and good designs. So yeah, Root's awesome. Yeah, that was one of my biggest surprises, I think, of 2018's and / regrets for not getting all of it immediately when I could have.
Yeah.
Well, that's number 3, Root. And now for the first runner-up, number 2.
Okay, this was a game that when I was first announced this year, I had a lot of questions how this thing was going to work, and I think a lot of people did. And came out, and it worked well, and I'm loving it. And that is Keyforge by Richard Garfield from Fantasy Flight Games. Easily, I have gotten like over 40 plays of this thing in already, and it came out a few months ago. I ran a tournament. I was expecting 8 people. We had 21 people show up for this thing. We could only hold 16 because I was an idiot. This thing, I honestly think the more I think about this game and the more I see what Fantasy Flight has done with it, I think this is a game changer, guys, because they did a really smart move. They did not try to do another collectible card game like Magic. They decided to try to disrupt Magic by taking out deck building, have everything randomly generated, and having a system in place that could do this. What I love about this game is that I don't feel guilty teaching this game to children. Unlike I did with Pokemon, where if I teach someone how to play Pokemon, their parents hate me forever because they're stuck buying boosters and cards. This one is you buy a deck and you can play it. No, it could be a good deck. It could be a buy a deck. But for $10, you've got a completely playable game. People who play Magic are migrating to this game because we had some Magic players show up. People who don't play Magic, who enjoyed playing Magic but did not like the money sink it was, are coming back to play a Magic-style game. And it's not like Magic because unlike Magic, you are not hammering someone away on hit points. You are instead generating resources to forge keys. And that is a huge difference in collectible card games because most dueling games, you're just pummeling each other and you're playing, you're like, okay, well, you constructed that deck better. You destroyed me. That's fun. This one it's more of a resource denial than a just attack and beat your other opponent down. Really interesting mechanics where you're generating Ember to forge keys. The way they did the distribution model works. I've done sealed tournaments, at least 2 of them, and everyone seems to be fairly competitive. Naturally, people who know how to play the game and know what's in someone's deck by looking at it has an advantage. I know that because I can play someone and look at their decks composed of, and see if they have certain cards. I know what it can do to me and what I need to do to anticipate it. But the catch with this one is that you're always wanting to buy another deck to see something different. So you're like, ooh, I've got 4 decks, but this next one may have all these cards and could be cool. It's cool. It's interesting. I don't think it's going to diminish Magic by any stretch of the imagination. However, it's a game that people can play in addition to Magic. And I think that was a brilliant move on Fantasy Flight's part to do it that way. This is going to be the reason why I can't broadcast with you next Thursday because I am running another tournament. I am like tournament man. We have like every 2 weeks we are doing tournaments now. Wow. This one just happens to fall on Thursday, but the next one's going to be on Saturday. The people. I mean, it's been interesting. The people I play with. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of people who normally don't like these type of games who like it. People who got burned out on collectible card games like it. It's attracting an audience that Magic lost. So it's been very interesting to follow. I'm sure we'll talk more about it in the next year, especially to see where it goes, because there's a lot about this game I don't understand they're going to do with chains for decks that are more powerful than other ones. I'm not sure how the collectability is going to be on this because for a while the 4 Horsemen were going bananas, but now it's died down. I'm still playing decks with rare cards I've never seen before, so that's cool. So there's still some unpredictability with it. And more than anything, it makes you try to figure your deck out without constantly building it and trying to figure out the synergies of it. So you can buy 2 or 3 decks and play them over and over just to figure out how that deck works, if it works at all. I was blown away by this thing, by how it plays, how it works. I know there was a lot of trepidation when this was announced, how this was even going to work, if it was even possible. But man, they threw resources. They had game designers. They, and Fantasy Flight's been real interesting anyway, because they've been dumping their licenses, except for Star Wars. Right? If it's Star Wars, they're going to publish the hell out of it. But, Games Workshop went away. Netrunner went away. There seems to be a push towards more original IP they can make more money off of. And Keyforge is completely sold out in this area, guys. You cannot find starter sets or the decks anymore. So
yeah, I just curiously did a check on Amazon, and the starter sets and stuff are still kind of pricey. Like, I don't know what their original MSRP was, but they're in the somewhere between 50 and 70 range. But you can still buy the individual decks for like $15, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how much they were in stores? Like,
it was $40 for a starter set and $10 for the individual deck. So if you're playing any more than that, don't, because you don't need a starter set at play. You can proxy everything, and you can download the rules from Fantasy Flight Games, because the rules, just FYI, are not included in the starter set. You get like a quick start guide, which actually isn't too big of a deal, because I dealt with that issue with Legend of the Five Rings, and it's nice to have you can just reprint rules as they change the rules, because there's already been a few changes to the game as it is. But yeah, this is a game I want to hear you guys talk about. I'm real curious where this fell on Trent's list when he was talking about his top 10.
If I remember right. Yeah, this is going to be one that'll be fascinating. It'll be really fascinating to look back on like a year from now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had, I don't know if you had a chance to play this show. I've been really curious to know what your take on this thing is.
Played it.
I get what you're saying, TC. Like, I understand it. I appreciate it. I think it's really cool. I just need more, I guess, opportunity to play. And it feels like one of those games that's like, it's fine as a 2-player game at a game night, but it's just, it still is like, it's creating like a subculture, I would say. And as much as I appreciate my sort of forays and sally force into it, I don't think that I have really like a base of experience that makes, it's not really solving a Magic problem for me. I never really, to me, that's not like such a pivotal moment for me. Like, my experience with Magic was fairly miserable. I just got like the floor wipe with somebody else gave me a deck and
you lost.
And I feel like Keyforge is it's the exact opposite of that first experience I had with Magic that made me kind of turned off towards it. But it doesn't, the first cut is the deepest maybe. And for me, it was actually Pokemon that really just nixed competitive or collectible card games. But I like Keyforge a lot. It's a great system. I don't like the fact that it's like Smash Up in its theme. It's like themeless and it looks like Smash Up. But I think mechanics wise and conceptually and in execution, extremely well made game that I certainly am open towards playing. Will definitely buy a deck or two for. Just like all that sort of beauty of cracking a pack, except it's done in a system, where it is like infecting, just because you're not going to ever hit that wall of money and time investment. That's not what it's about. So I appreciate that. I want to play it more, but I just haven't got the basic experience. 2 games in, enjoy it. Going to buy my deck, don't own one yet.
Yeah, I had a guy I play with who just wrote it off, and he is now the person I play the game with the most. And he only has 4 decks, and he loves the decks he has because he likes figuring out the puzzle of it and what they can do and how to execute these things. And oh yeah, and he was like, I was like, dude, you were like hating on this game. He's like, and I actually got him to say, yeah, I was wrong. It's like, whoa, it's so cool.
Very cool, TC. All right, so the only one remains.
Okay.
Number
This game came as a surprise, and it happened. It came out of the Essen Hall, and I did not see this coming. I did not know about this game. I never heard about this game. After I played it 2 or 3 times, fell in love with it. Tried to find a copy. It's really hard to find, and then to my joy, I discovered it was a 2018 game. And that is Donning the Purple.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Peter I didn't see this one coming.
Olsen, published by Tompet Games. I did not see this coming either. But the minute I played this was a game I knew you guys would love because, Andy, you like the 3-player type games. Joe, you like the Time of Crisis game, but you didn't like the randomness of the die rolls. And I know all of you love backstabby games out the wazoo. And this game, I was expecting a dry Euro game, and I was wrong. We were, oh my goodness, every single time we played this, we've just been hollering and yelling. What's the game? Well, Donning the Purple, what the heck's that? You are basically you play a person, a senator trying to become Caesar. And once you become Caesar, you have all kinds of responsibilities. You've got to feed the people. You got to figure out how you're going to take away the invaders. The best way to describe this game is imagine pandemic, but you can just stab each other all day long. Because there are ways everyone can lose. So you have to work together just to make sure you don't lose, but you have got to just dig your knife in deep to make sure you win. You can cause the Caesar when he buys his wheat, oh no, the price just went up, you got to pay more, so you won't be able to pay for everything. So the population happiness goes down, and you get less victory points because the population doesn't like you as Caesar. You can assassinate Caesar. You can assassinate senators. It's a wonderful 3-player game, which is rare. The way the fighting system works is if you have more going in and those guys are dead, we roll dice just to see how much money you get out of the thing, or maybe you draw more cards, or maybe, there's a third thing that can happen. Or you can get one of your exhaustion tokens out. Exhaustion's great. You can only take so many turns before you die, and you get a negative victory point. So you're do I want to do this? Because I might kill myself. I'm going to do it anyway. Oh my goodness, guys. This game is so unbelievably cool. So fun. So out of nowhere, I didn't see it coming. And I think it's mainly because it was a Kickstarter out of Norway, of all things.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a game that if you 3, I would love to see you, Joe, Trent, Andy. I want to see the 3 of you play it, and I want it broadcasted so I can watch it. Right? I love, like I said, I love the 3-player games. Yeah, I know, because Andy gave me a 3 Kingdoms Redux. It's nowhere near that level of awesomeness, but it's really up there. I throw it up there with all the rest of my 3-player games. And if you guys want a knife fight and you want to play Rome, and this is good stuff. And unfortunately, it's really hard to find. But if you can get a copy,
that's going to be tough, man. Yeah, neither of us have played it here, so it's really TC. You're going out on the limb here at the very top of your list, going with this game that I could tell you were really inspired by. I had no idea it'd make it this high, but this is really cool. I really want to try Donning the Purple now.
Yeah, because I think that when I did my rant, that was my second or third play of it, and I was just oh guys, I haven't even heard of this thing. I didn't even know it existed till a few months ago, and we broke it out, and none of us were expecting this type of game, and we were saying stuff yeah, you died, your heir comes up, but your illegitimate son sucked too, so we killed him off. So now I killed off the senator because I'm the next, so I'm the highest senator. So now I'm going to be Caesar, and I get to be Caesar, and I make 2 decisions where I get nuked out of it. And this is it's only 4 turns in this whole game. We went through 4 Caesars in round 3. I mean, it was crazy.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, this is the type of story I kind of question, is this Time of Crisis V2?
I don't know, but this, when I was playing this, I was dude, this fixed everything Joe complained about with Time of Crisis. Hands down. Very down. Cool. I was yeah, Joe, you've got to play this because I want to hear you. Andy, you have got to get this thing today because I want to hear how you just screwed everyone, the other 2 players at this table, because you when you see what you can do with this thing and how mean you can be, you're going to be in cloud 9 on this thing. And Trent's going to like it because he likes to manipulate everyone to do what he wants, and you can definitely do that in this thing.
Nice. Well, thanks, TC, for sharing such an awesome list. I mean, just packed full of titles that showcase that you have got a chance to play a ton of the games in 2018. I respect your judgment on so many of these different titles, like even the ones that aren't necessarily my cup of tea. Tons of respect for the accomplishments and design that they represent, and specifically the way that they cater, the way that they're able to impress somebody who's been around and played their share of GMT style. A lot of the games, just mentioning that one because it's not necessarily something I'd be an expert in. But thanks for sharing, TC. Very cool list.
Very, very fun list to go through. It was interesting to see how I thought about the year. So I appreciate the opportunity to blab about it for at least an hour and a half.
Yeah, good times, man. All right, well, Andy, I hope you don't mind me taking the first hype here.
Yeah, go for it.
Because we'll go ahead and start the hype section, which always signals the coming to an end. Parting is such sweet sorrow. But we don't have to do it yet. I wanted to take this first here because chronologically, I'm going to be talking about a game from the past. And Andy, I just feel like ending the episode with your hype is just appropriate. So anyway, what am I talking about? A game that was picked up off the clearance rack at the local game store by my father. And the more that I've read this rule book now, I'm thinking like, man, Andy could – I have no idea, Andy, because I definitely think that this is one of those games that it has a lot of ambitious ideas, and I look forward to seeing how they exactly take shape. Because I'm talking about a game called Coal Country, which looks it's a Rio Grande game released in like 2016. You can find it on clearance racks everywhere. My dad was very drawn to the theme. I'm not exactly sure why. The gameplay is trying to emphasize the sort of shadiness of the business practices of coal companies, coal extracting companies in Appalachia in the mid 20th century. This is because the amount that you have to pay for everything in the game is based on the concept of fees. These fees are how much the public and the businesses that are selling to you believe you're good for, if that makes sense. Like, you're not just going to pay $5 for that water. You're going to pay $5 times whatever the public perception of your capital is. And that's going to be depending on how much money you earn and then how much money you have at the end of certain intervals. So you kind of want to get money and then just get rid of it as fast as you can. I thought that seemed like an interesting element. The other part of this game is it's a worker placement game that's entirely simultaneous, and it's because you're essentially bidding for turn order at every place. There's every place in the game has a spot for every possible player that would want to go there. However, the workers that you're going to send out have different values that you hide from other players, and usually those workers' values will determine what order you get to go in. And so there's a lot of different other elements here. The rulebook is a bit of a dense little tome, and it leaves some things that are kind of unclear topics. I think some of that is just because this is a game that I feel like is maybe could have used a little more development just from the, I just had so many questions about like how the round gets reset, how certain concepts, whether or not a certain concept reviewed or referred to this part of the game system or this other game system. So definitely some things I had to hurdle over, but I'm really looking forward to playing Coal Country. And Andy, it's an economic game. Most money wins with a lot of dirty tricks. So who knows?
I have no idea. I want to think I vaguely heard of this, but
yeah, we'll go ahead and see how far it gets. I think I'm going to try it first with my family and really let's put it like this. If it goes over very poorly with them, then I'm going to try it with you, Andy.
Yeah.
Well, that was Coal Country, and now Andy's bringing us into the bleak future.
Yep. As I am wont to do. I am going to hype a game I am looking forward to. I have a copy of this now. I just need to get to the table. The game is called Meltwater, a game of tactical starvation by College Games. So
yeah, he didn't nail the head quite much with the bleak themes with This Guilty Land. So
I almost like, this was also among the pile of games I got with my mother-in-law's money. Like, I'm gonna tell her I ordered like Fluffy Bunny games, not a game about the politics of slavery and the end of human civilization.
Wow.
Anyway, when I first heard about this game, it immediately like ran up my I must get this list, because this is the premise of this game is the Cold War went hot, and basically every viable landscape on Earth was just nuked to oblivion. And now everyone is trying to live on Antarctica. And of course, being the pessimistic game it is, the Soviet Union and the Americas cannot tolerate to live on Antarctica with each other, and are bound and determined to wipe each other out still. So what happens in this game is you have the Soviet Union pieces, you have your American pieces, and you have these poor neutral pieces that are little stragglers that just like, I really don't want any part of this.
Yeah.
But anyway, what happens through the game is every round you draw a card, and basically like that's the amount of radioactive water that has seeped into an area, now making those hexes uninhabitable. And so the whole little continent just keeps shrinking. And the win condition is to basically be the only people left alive on this shrinking continent. And it's just got like the most horrible things you can do. Like you can like press gang people, so you can just basically go in and be like, no, you people from New Zealand, you're not going to be neutral. You're Americans now. Dang it, get in line. So there's all of that. There is actually fighting in the game. You have a few soldiers. And of course, like every time you engage in warfare, it's just worse, because like the bullets and the military barrages and all that just break up the ice, which causes more radioactive water to get in, shrinking the board even faster.
Yeah.
But actually, the main mechanism of how you're going to take out your opponent is starving them to death, because each hex can only hold so many people. So your best bet is to create a situation where like their people cannot flee to a neighboring hex, and so they just die. So yeah, and that's basically it. And like even the win condition, like if you look at the quote unquote victory conditions, which if I remember, I may even be in quotes, but it's just like, yeah, if you're the sole survivor, like, it basically comes down to there's like a couple win conditions. If you can win against your opponent with like a reasonable amount of the continent still in one piece, congratulations, you defeated them, and you may actually live long enough to repopulate the earth. If you're like just like the last one left standing, like out of this like 2 hexes of non-irradiated land around you, it's like, well, you get to have the last laugh as you die later.
I want to see a variant to this that's played on the game board of Don't Break the Ice.
Yeah, but no, it's really cool. Yeah, like like everything you do just makes like stuff worse, because when a hex becomes irradiated, like it's unlivable. That hex is, but then it makes every hex around it slightly, like they call it dirty hexes. It's got a little bit of radiation. So like the game board just keeps shrinking, and it's done semi-randomly. It's kind of actually got the coin mechanism. Like you see the card that's gonna happen, but you also see the next card coming. So that's how you're gonna plan it. So it kind of has that sort of war game abstract nature to it, a little bit of moving the units around and trying to do things and all of that.
Is this 2-player? Is it just U.S. Soviet Union? Okay.
Yeah, it's just a 2-player game. It would actually work, I think, pretty well as a solitaire game if you were going to play both sides as well. There's really no hidden information to work off of or anything. But yeah, that's Meltwater in the game of tactical starvation.
Oh man, I heard about this game, and I mentioned it to one of the guys I play with, and he went out and got it. And he's like, "That sounds amazing. I cannot wait to try this thing out. It just sounds the theme sounds so crazy and just wrong.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to try this thing."
Yep. No, yeah, Hollandspiel is quickly becoming one of my favorite games.
No, Hollandspiel, yeah, they did. You turned me on to but tabletop battles. Was that it?
Table battles, yeah.
It was just like cards and sticks and dice,
Yep.
and it was really cool. And yeah, ever since I just made it a point when if Indy says there's a Hollandspiel game, check it out. That's all I do.
Yeah, and Tom Russell, the guy who runs Hollandspiel with his wife Mary too, like his main selling technique for a lot of games is the one most guaranteed to get me to buy something, which is him going, "This game is really weird. You will probably hate it. You should not buy this game." And I'm like, I must buy this game.
That's the TC technique.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, you guys are like twins. Like, yeah.
I heard this one stinks. Really? Andy, let's try it out. Okay.
Yeah, well, no, mine is just like, if you say like only the truly odd or weird people will like this game, I'm like, I'm a truly weird odd person. I like that game.
Hey, Andy, I've got a game that only the truly odd, weird people like. It is rated #1 on Board Game Geek.
Yeah.
Try it out.
And I hear it's broken and stupid, so TC would like it too.
Yeah, it's based on something.
This game does look really cool, if a bit bleak.
Mm.
It's just one of those games I like to put out in game night, and people are like, playing like a party game, and I'll laugh, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm playing a game about the end of the world."
It's pretty funny.
Well, Tom Russell finds really, like the mechanisms in his games are so unique.
Yeah, and this one actually, it is worth pointing out. This one is not designed by Tom Russell.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
No. I don't remember who the designer was, but this, if I remember right, this is not designed by him, but it's under, the Hollandspiel brand. Like it's one designed by someone who submitted it to him. So he gets a lot of submissions as well that then he, does some of the development on and whatnot. But just because it's Hollandspiel doesn't mean it's Tom Russell.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I remember that because in Infinite Traffic kind of got you turned on to it in the first place, and that's not a Tom Russell. It's a Cole Worley.
I can't remember who did this one off the top of my head. I should probably, prep. But but no, it does look honestly really cool. Like it looks like a solid design, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Sounds great. That's Meltwater. And that brings us to an end here. TC, your top 10 list was fantastic. Loved listening to it. And I appreciate that at least somebody else is trying to include all of the games and not just 10.
Yeah, I know. It's always hard. I'm like, oh, this sucks.
I say that entirely in jest. I've done so much worse than you, TC. It was a great list, man. I really enjoyed it. Andy, it's been great talking with you. And everybody who's been listening and participating here in our chat, it's been great to see you guys too. Jerry, we had, now we've got Murr. And, it's just been a fantastic little time here. I hope that everybody has a great week of gaming, and we'll catch us next week here on The Good, The Bored, and The Ugly.